Welcome to the & Juliet podcast. In today's episode, & Juliet composer Max Martin talks to Sara Bareilles about the intersection of pop music and musical theater.
My questions for Max, coming to this as just a longtime fan, my very, very first love was musical theater, and then I took a left turn into, the music industry as a pop artist, and Max Martin is pretty much the gold standard of pop songwriters. He's made, I don't need to tell you this, but for anyone listening, he has made every song you fucking love. Sorry, you can just bleep that. Every song you love has come from this man. It's just unbelievable. And his collaboration with these extraordinary artists. So it was so much fun to go sort of swimming through your own nostalgia in this new contemporary but not contemporary way. It was just a really unique blend of storytelling and that wonderful feeling you get from listening to songs you love but told in a new way and on new voices. And I was just blown away by the orchestrations. My friend Bill Sherman also worked on the show. Like, I just have a lot of friends who were such a huge part of this. But I guess my big question was why now? Why these songs? Why, what made you want to say yes to doing this massive project?
It's, well, thank you for saying that. I'm blushing right now. It came from my wife came up with the original idea of, trying to do a musical based on the songs that I've been part of many years ago. And we came into this, we were very naive, and as you started doing musicals too, so probably as well as I do how you have this idea of what it's going to be. We had no idea. But
I always say if I knew how hard it was going to be, I wouldn't have said yes.
You know what? I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, my naivete was a part of why I'm glad I didn't know going into it. Yeah.
But that goes back to also getting into music in general. When you start, you have no idea, you just come in with it with lots of love for the art and everything that comes with it. You know nothing about, and it's probably helps you to continue, because if you know all the obstacles and all the, naysayers and the doubt and all that stuff and the self-hate and insecurities that comes along with it, you probably wouldn't do it. But it was kind of the same thing with this. I guess, it was a time, this is probably around 2010, I would say. I've been going for, at that point, maybe for 20 years doing this. When she said, hey, well, wouldn't that be fun to try to do something different? And we were like, cool, let's do it. And we started talking to people and went around and saw some, interesting script ideas and stuff like that. And then we never really found anything. And then it wasn't until we met Tim Headington and Teresa Page where that's when we kind of started for real. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the reason why was really to hey, let's do something different. Not knowing that it would take up all of my time forever.
Forever, I know. Yeah. Well, I think I'm, one of many people who are so glad that you didn't know, and so you said yes to going down this road, because I think theater is it's such a vital part of the arts community. And did you have a relationship to musical theater, like growing up? Did you listen to cast albums or see shows? Or
not really. Mm-hmm. My parents probably had a few cast albums at home that you would listen to, but and I've said this before, I've probably seen 3 or 4 musicals in my life, but I kind of realized quickly that I fell in love with the whole idea of, because I kind of feel like the telling a story on stage with an audience is kind of the ultimate way of telling a story. Yeah. And I found that going into this process without knowing that much, also, sometimes it's good to have an idiot in the room who asks these questions that are stupid, but sometimes you ask the right question, and maybe you come in from a different angle and find solutions that maybe, if everyone's sort of seasoned, and I've seen this in my day job as well, where, the best idea can come from the least experienced person in the room.
It makes me think about, sometimes I think that person who has the least experience is like the best conduit to the audience, because they're sometimes the bridge towards, the psyche of the person who's coming in to just receive whatever is being created. And so I think it's really easy to get bogged down in the minutia of how to build the Lego structure. And
Right.
you forget that if the person in the room, if all of the nuance is lost on the person of the room, then it might not have been that intelligent in the first place.
No, I'm with you. And a lot of, in my music making, I like to, I actually love when it's super clear and I don't like when it goes over your head and all that stuff. And there's so many people, as involved in this. So it's just, this not just me, but from the music standpoint, together with Bill and with Dominic, and creating this, with having me as the sort of naive, like, hey, why can't we have 808s in the, you know what I mean? Like, why can't we have a side chain on the bass, so the kick drum, and all that stuff? Because I come from the studio world where everything is super controlled and you have so much time and you can try it over and over again. But in on the stage, you have maybe, sound checking with a band, you have, an hour to do the whole show. So you only have so many chances to get it right.
I have to say the sound in that theater is incredible. I think to be able to, because I think that's what you want from those songs as well. They're obviously these iconic songs, and you sort of know them a certain way. And of course, yes, they're reimagined to a certain extent, but there was nothing wimpy about it, which I loved. It was powerful and bold, and from a sound design perspective, it felt really, really rich, and I was really impressed with that.
Thank you. I think it was really, I felt like when you see the show, there are obviously a lot of songs turn on its head. It's it's an up-tempo song might now be a ballad, or there might be a woman singing what used to be sung by a man, and so on and so forth. But then there are those moments where I was like, these songs need to, when you go and see, like, what's it called? Backstreet's Back, but it's not called that. It's called Boy Band's Back. In the show, I felt like we need to make that into the moment where you can feel the power, and you can feel like the whole thing that Luke Shepard always talks about, where it's a pop concert, but it's also theater, but it's 100% both kind of thing.
Yes.
Which sort of demanded a lot of work on the sound, so it feels powerful.
I agree with you about that. I think there are certain shows that sort of need, I don't know if it's because of density of lyrics, or like you need a little bit less bombastic approach from the sound design. It's actually better for the show, for the sonic experience to be more intimate. But I think for this show, that wouldn't have made any sense whatsoever. I think that
but that was also the challenge, because I think that we have both, right? There's both the bombastic, but the sort of roller coaster going up and down, and the emotional roller coaster that we have in our show. There's a lot of heart in it, and that you're absolutely right. You have to know when to sort of make it big and know when to make it small, and that was a huge challenge too. But that's also why we have a bunch of string players, and for these all the way through, to keep it keep that emotional fader, so to speak, in there.
Yeah. What is the band configuration? How many pieces? Do you know?
We have 4. I have to count now, because it's 4 string players. There's a bass player, there's a guitar player, there's a drummer, and there's 2 keyboard players.
Mm-hmm.
What is
Amazing.
a lot.
That's
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well,
Thank you.
it was awesome. I'm curious about your perspective on this, but it's the thing to me that feels the most different from being an artist, being a pop artist, is that you are truly a part of an orchestra the entire time. There is no singular person. The show doesn't happen without you. We are a team. We come together. It is all for one and one for all. And I think that I just love that spirit so much. I think it's such a generous way to create. For the most part, I have felt that the community of people that I've experienced in the theater community is just, I never want to go back. I mean, of course, yes, I want to go back, but want to do both, I should say.
You're bitten by the bug. I mean, I agree, because I come from, a lot of my work is done in teams, right? I like most of these songs, a lot of these songs in the show, I've co-written with people throughout the years, and I remember one night when that happened for the first time. I was in the theater, and someone was out last minute, and I panicked. I was like, what's going on? And that's when I really got to see what you're talking about, because the audience, riled up and became part of the whole, like, carrying this person through the show. Yeah. There was so much love from, like I said, the company came together, the audience was like so supportive, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, everyone like are really nice in here. It's great. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that one. The whole family vibe, and it's been super important for us to really keep that sort of feeling in the company, and that everybody understands that we're all part of this. It's not just the people on stage; it's everyone working behind the stage. Even people selling the popcorn and all that stuff. It takes a village to get this on stage, and we try to. I try to sort of emphasize that as much as I can when I get a chance.
Will you talk to us about the song that was written specifically for & Juliet, One More Try? How did you approach writing something completely original for this? Or what felt different about it, I guess, from other songwriting you've done?
So the scene for One More Try, it actually happened kind of organically, that we just couldn't sort of find music from the vault, so to speak, to tell that story, what was going on in that scene. And so it was like we had to do it. And it was really scary, because I kind of walked in thinking that part of the job was done. Like, yeah. I'd done it for 25, whatever it was, time. And they were like, hey, we need a new song. I was like, cool. All right. Because also the song before that song comes in, and the songs after that song are sort of legit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've been around for a minute, and mm-hmm. I know them so well and all that. So now I felt a lot of pressure to come up with something that sort of was up to par with something that's been so, I don't know, stood the test of time or whatever you want to call it. But it was also super exciting to be like, okay, it was very specific what needed to be said in that moment. But I struggled with it. It was really hard. I had this idea like, okay, I'm going to do this by myself. I couldn't do it. So I brought in a few of my friends that I work with, Salvan Kotesha, Peter Svensson, and a few more. I think it was one more, Oscar Holter, I think is on there too. And sort of just got to work. They came up with a seed that was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Let's work on that. And like, I need help. I really need help on that one. I'm not going to lie. I'm really happy I did it. It was hard. Yeah. But we did it. Yeah. And now it's in, and I'm happy. Yeah.
It's amazing. I know, I can imagine, because you're dealing with like these mega juggernaut hit. And then you're like, okay, can I just pull one of those out of the ether again? That's good. Yeah. And it does. It lives in that world completely. And so that's amazing.
I hope so. I knew it. Again, it's hard to, it's always hard to do it when you have to be, it's hard to compare it to the other ones, but I sort of I decided to come in at it from the angle of like, okay, let's just make sure this story is being told here, and not worry so much about, is it as good as I want it that way, or this and that,
Right.
It was more like, let's just make sure Luke Shepard is happy. And And
But the story's getting told. That makes sense. That totally makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it turned out pretty well, I have to say.
Yeah, great.
But I have a question for you, Sarah, because you were killing it, and then what made you want to do what you do now? Like what turned,
After my second record, well, it was partially moving to New York. Was after my second record, Kaleidoscope Heart, I was happy, comfortable, had a great little life in LA. I had a bungalow in Venice and friends, and was working, there was nothing wrong. I just, when I talk about it, I say that I sort of felt just unalive. I just wasn't, there was no fire. I could see down the road the cyclical nature of being a pop artist. I was like, I know what this is going to be for the next 20 years if I wanted to. Which is, you write songs, you go into the studio, you make a record, you go on tour, you tour for a while, you come back, you take a little break, and then you start over. And I just felt claustrophobic. And so I took what I thought would be 1 year, a little like Rumspringa. I went to New York. I was like, I'll go and I'm just going to live in New York for a little while. And what I feel, the person that I feel like I encountered within myself that lived here was so much more exciting than the person that was living in my life in LA. And New York is a huge character in the story of my life. Like and I think it's, really that's just a metaphor for the people that I've encountered here, the arts community, the food, the density of the population, the complicated nature of life here. I feel more alive. And I took a meeting with Diane Paulus, who is our director for Waitress. They were in the very, very beginning stages of working on that show. I thought I would audition for something. I auditioned for Into the Woods, actually. The production they did back in the park. I auditioned for the role of Cinderella. I did not get it. I was so underprepared and had no idea what I was doing. And I was so humbled by that experience because I thought, I'm a good singer. I can, and I did some musical theater. No, it was so egotistical of me to think that I could walk into this new medium and thrive there. But I took a meeting with Diane. She told me about the film Waitress. I had not seen the movie. I went back and watched the movie, and I was sort of just curious. It felt like an experiment. And I was like, I'm not totally sure I can do this. It feels impossible to me at the moment, but there was something about the idea of really taking a left turn. My soul was really asking me to do something different, like you said. So then I just went on this journey we just started with the film and the film script, and writers started to come in, and we were sort of looking for the right fit, and it was deeply collaborative. It was painfully complicated a lot of the time. It was totally joyful.
So how long did it take from you started till you had okay, that's it?
From us starting to get to Broadway was 4 years.
Wow.
Which in the world of musicals is like a real fast track. Mm-hmm. So I was shocked about that. But I just, over the years, fell in love with it. I fell in love with the process and the people, and I don't like the tedium of it. I still don't like that, that you have to come back and revise and revise. I learned that the way that I write for me as a storyteller, it requires a slightly different brain to tell this other story. Mm-hmm. And but I said the why was just that I think I was really searching for something. And my life genuinely falls into two categories, which is before Waitress and after Waitress. Mm-hmm. And everything that has come after Waitress is better. I'm just so grateful that this project came into my life and it changed everything. So it's been the great artistic love of my life and continues to be. And I'm just really lucky that it showed up.
Well, we're happy you did it. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks. Me too. It was really beautiful.
Yeah, I'll come back to you when I write a whole new one.
Yes, I was going to ask. Are you going to do another one?
This hair won't be here.
There you go.
Thank you for listening to the Anne Juliet podcast. Be sure to listen to our next episode when Anne Juliet choreographer Jennifer Weber joins Jerry Mitchell to discuss how dance tells stories in musical theater.